intentionality. So, my name is Abby Horton. I am a registered nurse. I'm a certified health and life coach, an assistant professor here at UA in the Capstone College of Nursing, a former wellbeing ambassador for the Honors College, and one of your wellness class educators. You can reach me at abby.horton at ua.edu, and I'm always happy to connect with you guys. So, feel free to reach out if you have questions or feedback or just want to connect. You're welcome to reach out. So, a couple of our goals for today, I want to really talk about the importance and the impact of gratitude, to explore how you actually develop an attitude of gratitude. Because for me, when I first started my health and wellness journey about 5 to 10 years ago, I would say that one of the things I really struggled with is developing an attitude that was positive. I really struggled with that because I had a lot of health challenges and personal challenges. And I was a young mom and working full time and in graduate school. And so as a nurse, we live by protocols. So I wanted a protocol. I wanted someone to tell me, this is the thing that you do step by step. That makes you a really good nurse, but sometimes it makes it be, a little bit more challenging to be a human because life does not live by protocol, unfortunately. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a protocol today, and then learn specific strategies to develop and support this gratitude practice, because it really is a practice and it does take practice. And then provide a practical framework for how you practice and include gratitude on a daily basis. And so, like everything that I teach, I really do believe in giving you a lot of different viewpoints and perspectives on this, and a lot of different options for how you might actually incorporate gratitude. Because for everyone on the call today, there will be, things that you resonate with, but maybe your neighbor doesn't. And so I'll give you a lot of information. We usually think about gratitude being something that we talk about and teach in November around Thanksgiving. And one of the things I love to say when I'm talking about gratitude is that gratitude is not just reserved for Thanksgiving or for November. We really need to be thinking about gratitude every day. And so I like to tell people to bookend their days, meaning you start your day as a bookend and you end your day as a bookend with gratitude, with feeling grateful. And so this morning, when my family brought me coffee this morning, and my husband asked me, well, what class are you teaching for wellbeing today? I said, I'm teaching about gratitude. And he said, okay, well, what are you going to tell them that you're grateful for? And I said, well, I'm going to tell them that I'm grateful that you brought me my oatmeal and my coffee to me this morning, because I've been, having a lot of late work nights recently. And so I said, that will be one thing that I share. Just my oatmeal and my coffee. He said, that's really what you're going to share. And I said, that's really what I'm grateful for this morning, because it's the little things. And so I'm going to read you a passage from a book about gratitude. I actually don't know which book this is from. I'll try to track it down if anyone's interested. But I'm just going to read this short little passage. It says, what is gratitude? It is an emotion that defies easy classification. Gratitude, derived from the Latin word gratis, meaning grace, graciousness, or gratefulness, eludes simple explanation by academics. Definitions such as the willingness to recognize the unearned increments of value in one's experience look great on term papers, but don't get the point across. We will not attempt to disguise imprecisions with $10 words. Gratitude is the experience of counting one's blessings. It is the feeling that embodies the phrase, thank you. It is the unexpected reward of a kind deed that is magically produced by your brain. It is the inexplicable feeling in your body that makes you smile at strangers. Why do scientists love gratitude? Even after cutting through the smoke of law of attraction style belief systems, gratitude has shown to be quite transformational in humans, ranging from students to retirees. A 2003 study by Emmons and McCullough found that keeping a daily gratitude journal leads to better sleep, reductions of physical pain, a greater sense of well being, and a better ability to handle change. Delving deeper into the world of brain science, there's another study that illustrates the immediate effectiveness of gratitude. Turns out gratitude could be the ultimate magic pill for happiness. In 2008 studies, subjects experiencing gratitude were studied using functional MRIs, and it was found that they were influencing their hypothalamus in real time. The hypothalamus is the small but powerful part of your brain that directly influences sleep, eating, and stress. Gratitude also stimulates the part of the brain associated with the neurotransmitter dopamine, the do it again chemical, that is responsible for the creation of learning new pathways. Bottom line, writing in a journal each morning and night can help you gain a more positive outlook on life. And I think that that's so important when we're considering our approach to building this gratitude practice, because oftentimes we think about gratitude or a gratitude practice or feeling grateful as this, attempt to put on rose colored glasses. And so when I was updating these slides, this is one of the slides that I added because rose-colored glasses, I think, often, are associated with this feeling of gratefulness, right? That we're just going to ignore all of the things that are going wrong in life, that we're going to pretend like those things don't exist or pretend like things aren't bothering us, and we're just going to put our rose-colored glasses on and think positive thoughts only. You all see the, t-shirts or the different, swag and merchandise that says good vibes only. And I really don't like that approach to gratitude because I think that it negates how human we are. I'm very human. I tell my students all the time when I'm teaching my nursing students, I say, I'm 100% human. It's not if I make a mistake, it's when I make a mistake. And I think it's so important to let ourselves be human and really to let other people be human, right? So it's not this notion of putting on rose-colored glasses and having a Pollyanna style attitude and only seeing the positive, but what it is it's deciding that despite all of the hard stuff, despite all of the quote unquote bad stuff, despite all of the challenges or stressors or things that we may have going on in our lives, we can still pause and we can still find something to be grateful for, right? It's looking at the maybe the cloud and seeing the silver lining. It's acknowledging that there may be something that's really challenging for you, but it's still choosing to see what good can come of that. So I hope y'all will, if you don't already think that way, I hope that y'all will consider that perspective. So, gratitude is the act of recognizing and appreciating the good things in your life, both big and small. It's a mindful acknowledgement of what brings you joy, comfort, or value, whether it's a person, experience, or simple moment. Practicing gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you already have, fostering a sense of contentment and fulfillment. It can be as simple as feeling thankful for a sunny day or a supportive friend. And so I would really encourage you to think about something that you're grateful for today. Coffee for me in the morning always makes the list, but if you'd like to put in the chat something that you're feeling grateful for, or maybe something that you're thinking about maybe switching your perspective on, feel free to pop that in the chat and I will look at that at the very end. We'll take time to acknowledge all the good things in our lives. So gratitude defined. The word gratitude comes from the Latin word gratis, like that passage meant, and it can be defined as pleasing or thankful. And so gratitude is an emotion similar to appreciation, but gratitude is also this, type of trait or state of being. So meaning that it can be a characteristic of our personality, but it also can be much more intentional than that. So the American Psychological Association more specifically defines this phenomenon of gratitude as a sense of happiness and thankfulness in response to a fortunate happenstance or tangible gift. And what I would really like to encourage you is to not just think about the tangible gifts. That's so easy, right? To think about birthday gifts or small tokens of appreciation or things that are really tangible. I think that that's the easy thing to be grateful for. But it's much more, I think, challenging for us today to be grateful for the little things like a sunny day or the breeze on your drive home when you roll your window down, or the friend that offered you, some encouragement or some support, or the person that smiled at you, while you were walking into work. I had to park in the back parking lot for nursing. We used to have the best parking on campus, and now we're a little bit under construction, and so our parking is limited. And so this morning when I arrived to work, I already knew that the lot was full. I could tell. And so I just skipped the lot that was nearest the building and went to the back lot near the students and commuters. And as I was walking in, I was really grateful for the fact that it was sunny and that it was warmer, because it's been really cold this winter as I've walked from that back lot. And as I was walking in, a gentleman was walking out of one of the construction trailers on campus, and he smiled at me. And when I smiled, I said, "Good morning." And he said, "Good morning." And it's just the little simple things like that. How often do we take time to smile and speak and say good morning? Maybe you guys do that all the time, and maybe you do it so much that it's just a part of your habit and you don't really feel grateful for it. But it was something that really, got my attention this morning, maybe because I was already thinking about gratitude. But that's little moments of our day that we can start to really have more intentionality with. So instead of saying good morning and smiling out of habit, we can really say good morning and smile out of this intention of being grateful for another human. So I think that's really important to think about. And then gratitude, like I was saying, is both a state, meaning that we feel grateful, but it's also a trait, meaning that it can be a part of our personality, but it can also be something that we cultivate. We don't just have to be born with this intention of gratitude. We can actually develop it and practice it and build it. So, gratitude explained. Anyone can have gratitude, and gratitude is really that quality of being thankful and grateful. And it's also the readiness to show that we're thankful and we're grateful. And so, when does it happen? I think we are more likely to feel grateful when we're in a happier mood, but I think we're more likely to be in a happier mood if we make gratitude a part of our everyday routine. And so, where does it happen? You can think about where you are when you feel most grateful. For a lot of us, that's when we're with our kids or our families, or when we're with our friends, or when we're at the beach or the mountains, or, on vacation. A lot of us are going to feel grateful during spring break next week. It's those kind of big moments we can, recognize and think, oh, wow, I feel really grateful for this. But our capacity for happiness really expands when we can be grateful just walking into work, right? Or just having lunch or coffee with a friend or coworker. And so it's really the little moments that add up to have the most happiness, because we live our life in the little moments every day. Every week is not spring break, right? And so if we're only living for those big milestones or those vacations or those big breaks, then we're missing a lot of opportunity to be happy. And I will raise my hand and say, for many, many years, I missed out on the opportunity to be happy and to be grateful, because I was really focusing on the things that weren't going well, that weren't going right, quote unquote, in my life. And so, for me, it's really been a mind shift and a transformation to really think about gratitude when I first wake up, and to think about gratitude when I go to bed at night, and to remind myself every day how much I have to be grateful for. And so, how do you express gratitude? Hopefully, we express gratitude for people when we feel it in the moment, right? And so, if someone is on your mind, then I encourage you to text them. Maybe grab your phone right now and text someone if you thought of someone that you're really grateful for, that you have some appreciation for. A lot of times, unfortunately, I think that we have a grateful thought. We think, oh, that person really helped me. I wish that I had said something to them. Or we even have a fleeting thought of, oh, that was nice of them, but we don't actually tell the person. And I would like to encourage us to be really intentional about not only sending thank you notes and gifts and, all of those big things, but just a simple text message, or just drop by the office and say, "Oh, I really wanted to let you know how much I appreciated when you did," and then name the specific thing, right? So when we tell people that we're grateful for them, a lot of times we're like, "Oh, I'm grateful for my spouse or partner. Oh, I'm grateful for my kids or grandkids. Oh, I'm grateful for my roommate or my coworker." And we don't put a specific action with it. When we put the specific action with the person, then we're training our brain to look for those little moments, right? So not that I'm just grateful for my husband, but I'm grateful for my husband for fixing my coffee and bringing it to me this morning. I'm grateful for my best friend at work for checking on me last week when I was feeling sick. I'm grateful for my teammate that I'm teaching with to reach out yesterday via email and ask me if I needed help with anything while we're doing this big grading project. I'm grateful for, name it. My mom sent me a text message yesterday and said, "I hope you have a very pink day." I talk about her a lot when I talk about gratitude because she really is the epitome of rose-colored glasses and a Pollyanna attitude. She was kind of really just born with that. And I wasn't. I have to really work at it. But that's how my mom is, right? She sent me a text message wishing me a pink day, and she sent me a pink meme that had a pink heart. And when I think about gratefulness, I do think about my mom. So it's those little moments, right? It's not just saying I'm grateful for my mom, but I'm grateful that my mom sends me memes and messages to encourage me. Or, I'm grateful for the sunny day. Or I'm grateful for the rainy day, right? We need rainy days too. So express that gratitude, even if you just say it out loud to yourself, even if you just write it in a journal, having some sort of expression of that doesn't mean that you have to tell the person. There may not even be a person involved, but it does mean that you don't keep it to yourself. So that can look like saying it, speaking it out loud, even if there's no one to hear, or writing it down. I always like writing things down because it makes it real. So the 4 A's of gratitude, this is another new slide for me, but I think it helps give us this protocol. So the 4 A's of gratitude are attention, acknowledgement, appreciation, and action. And so these can really be used as a framework for noticing and being grateful for the good things in life. And so for me, I'm always a busy bee. I'm always going from one thing to the next. I leave very little margin in my life and in my day. I'm always going to have myself overscheduled. I'm always going to have something that I'm working on. I'm always going to have an impossible to-do list and goal list. I just live my life that way. And that can be really great and productive. It can really be unhealthy sometimes. And so I have to catch myself with that. And when I notice that I'm doing too much, it's when I notice that I'm not noticing the little things, right? And so if you're geared toward being observant and aware of others and aware of yourself, you have a lot of self-awareness, you notice the little things. And when you get overbooked and overscheduled and overwhelmed, you stop noticing the little things. And so, how you can practice the 4 A's of gratitude is you notice, you pay attention to the good things in your life, and the good things are the small things. You acknowledge, you're recognizing, you're aware of the good things that happen to you, right? So you are grateful for the parking spot that you get. You're grateful for the person that lets you in traffic. That's huge in Tuscaloosa when someone will let you out in traffic. You're grateful for, the coffee after work, or the friend that sends the text message, or the assignment that gets submitted, the deadline that gets met, um, the email or the meeting that gets canceled or scheduled, whichever one you need it to be. It's the little things. And then you appreciate it. You're grateful. You're thankful for it. And then you act on that. You put gratitude into action by prioritizing relationships and being kind to others. And what I will say about being kind to others, I had a good friend that asked me, "Abby, are you afraid to be happy?" And oh, in that moment, I was really surprised that the friend said this. This was several years ago when I, like I said, was going through a really difficult time. And I said, I'm going to have to think about that. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. And the answer was yes. And actually, I think the answer is yes for a lot of us. I think sometimes we're afraid to love ourselves. I think sometimes we're afraid to be kind to ourselves because of that. And I think at the root of it is that we're sometimes afraid to be happy because a lot of times when we're happy, it feels like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, or we're waiting for the rug to be pulled out from under us, right? Like a lot of us grew up with that kind of frame of reference for happiness, right? That if we're on the mountain, there's going to be a valley. And so I think a lot of us have developed this underlying, or maybe this deep seated fear of being happy because then what's going to happen, right? We're going to fall from that happiness. And really, that is the natural ebb and flow of life. We're not going to always be on the mountains, but thankfully, we're not always going to be in the valleys either. And so we can have this approach. And Brene Brown talks about this beautifully. She's a social work professor and researcher. If you don't know her, I love everything that she has out there. Her books and her podcast and all of her TV appearances. She's a great resource for mindset work. And she says, a lot of times we protect ourselves from being too happy because we don't want to be too sad. We're afraid of being too sad. And so I think that's something that we really want to think about. If we're afraid of being happy, of letting ourselves be happy, then we're probably going to be afraid of being grateful. And so because when we start practicing that gratitude, we're going to naturally increase our happiness, and we're going to increase our capacity for being happy. And so when that friend asked me that question, that set me on a little bit of an exploration into what are my fears around being happy and how can I start to baby step my way out of that, right? Because when we numb, and this is another Brene Brown moment, when we numb our ability to feel sad and to feel all of the kind of more, heavier, more negative emotions, we also numb our capacity to feel all of the highs, right? So when we're kind of in that middle ground and we numb out to the emotions that feel hard, we're also numbing out to the emotions that feel really great. So we can acknowledge, we can appreciate, we can affirm, we can act, and we can develop gratitude through this framework. So acknowledging looks like, I appreciate your hard work on that project. Appreciation is, this sunset is beautiful. I'm lucky to see it. Affirming it's, thanking you for the support. It means a lot. And then showing the gratitude, it's really returning that, right? So helping a friend without expecting anything in return. My grandmother was always one to say these little, kind of, catchy sayings. She always had a story to tell. I think I get my storytelling from her. But she would always say, you get what you give. And that was certainly not, something my grandmother came up with, but she found that to be true. And she always would remind me of that. She's like, you get what you give. If you want more love, you've got to give more love. If you want more appreciation, you've got to give more appreciation. So I always like to tell people, I get a lot of thank you notes because I give a lot of thank you notes. And the other day I was sitting down to write some thank you notes and I was realizing, wow, it's been a while since I've gotten a thank you note. And I love those. That's my love language, little words of affirmation. And so I thought, well, it's been a while since I've written any thank you notes because it's been a really busy season in my life. And so it just reminded me of that principle, you get what you give. And so gratitude's impact, it can help heal us, it can help energize us, it can change our lives if we let it. And so, we might not want to put rose-colored glasses on, but we definitely can put our grateful glasses on. And so gratitude not only makes you feel good, it can have a dramatic and lasting effect on our well-being. And research indicates that it can lower our blood pressure, improve our immune function, reduce cardiac inflammation, increase our happiness, improve relationships, and decrease depression. So, Dr. Robert Emmons is one of the leading experts on gratitude, and he does a lot of research around the benefits of gratitude. And I've linked to his article about why gratitude is good. So gratitude's importance, building off of Dr. Eamon's research, it can improve our feelings of well-being and our overall health and happiness. It makes relationships stronger and our connections stronger. When someone shows you gratitude or notices the little things about you, or gives you a little gift or an accolade or an affirmation, it makes you want to be around that person, right? And so it's going to naturally build those connections and those relationships because that's the kind of energy we want to be around. And if that's the kind of energy we want to be around, then we have to kind of give that energy, right? And so embracing our confidence, adjusting our mindset, we really have to enhance those things, highlighting our strengths, healing ourselves, healing our inner child. We all have an inner child. Leading research shows that a lot of times our inner child is really the age of whenever we had kind of our greatest traumatic experience or transformational experience, however you would like to frame that. And so all of us have an inner child that we need to parent. And a lot of times that is a lot of work. It's hard work too. Cultivating our resilience. Resilience is our ability to bounce back, but it's more than that. One of the things that I study in my research around mental health is also this relationship with resilience and grit. And resilience to me is more than the ability to bounce back. It's really the ability to weather the adversity and storms of life and to come out on the other side with this profound sense of gratitude and also with this increased ability and confidence in yourself, an increased sense of self trust. Because rarely do we bounce back to the way that we were before. In nursing, we call that baseline. We say that we need to get our patients back to baseline or better, meaning that we want to get them back to where they were before they had the accident, the injury, the illness. But most of the time, we're not going to get back to baseline when we've had this moment where we've had to develop resilience. Really, we don't want to. We want to get back to better than baseline. We want to have grown through that experience. And so that's cultivating resilience in essence. Keeping us present in the moment, I always have to remind myself to be present where my feet are. A lot of times I live in the future. I think most of us are either past or present oriented. We're living in our past or we're thinking about our future. This is definitely not scientific or medical, so I'm not citing my source on this one, but a lot of literature will tell us that if you're more past oriented, if you live in the past, you tend to have more regrets. You might tend to have more depressive thoughts or moments. If you're future oriented, then you tend to be more goal oriented in terms of like thinking about the future, planning for the future, but you might tend to be a little bit more anxious. And then there are some of us that I think kind of live our lives one foot in the present, moment, maybe in the past, and one foot in the future. I would say that that's how I am. I'm rarely in the present moment. I usually have one foot in the past and one foot in the future, and I'm always thinking about, okay, what did I do here? Where am I going there? And that can be really good. It can help you be successful in a lot of ways, but you have to really sometimes take a step back into the center, refocus, and just be in the present moment. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to do meditations and mindfulness work. And a lot of times I live in my head and not in my body. And so when you think about really healing yourself and doing a lot of the resilience and nervous system regulation and things that we talk about in health and wellness today, it's really getting out of the brain and into the body. And so I took a yoga class over the weekend because I just really knew that I needed something more than what I had been doing to cope with some stressors that I'm going through right now. And that was 75 minutes of I had to get out of my brain and into my body and just breathe. And so I think yoga, mindfulness, meditation, there's so many things that you can do. Walks out in nature without any kind of technology or devices, anything that's going to get you to the present moment where you're focusing on your breath and you're focusing on moving your body and feeling your feelings can be really powerful when it comes to a gratitude practice. It increases our patience. It makes us happier people. Like I said, it can elevate our mood and it can increase our energy. Um, when we think about things differently, we start to feel differently. And I think that's so important. Our feelings and our actions and our thoughts all go hand in hand. And so if we want to change our lives, we really have to change the way that we think about things first. So gratitude is a skill. It's something that we can develop, but you want to develop it ideally before you're in a crisis situation, right? Before you're in a really stressful time. And so, according to Dr. Emmons, gratitude gives us the strength of character to make life better, not only for ourselves, but also for others. And one of the things that I like to mention here is that, you know, we want to give from our overflow. And so a lot of times, if you're a giver, if you're someone that is always, volunteering first, you're the first to raise your hands, you're the one that's the first to work or the last to leave, and you're the one in the friend group or in your family that can always be counted on, that can always be called on. A lot of times you have this, kind of outward focus, and you're thinking about how you can help improve the lives of other people. And at some point in our lives, I think we all come to the realization that we have to give and we have to pour into ourselves first and give from our overflow. Because when we're giving from our overflow, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like a natural next step because we are so happy. We are so fulfilled. We are so energized. We are so healthy that we just naturally give what's left over to everyone around us. And it just spills out. People can feel that. Some people will call it a vibe. Some people will call it an aura. Some people will call it energy. But really, what it is it's just all of the goodness that you have can't be contained in you, and it just goes and spills out into everyone around you. Unfortunately, the same can be said when we don't have that good energy. The same can happen. It can overflow, right? Brene Brown calls that chandeliering. So in the literature, her husband is a pediatric doctor in Texas, and they were having a dinner time conversation about emotions and how people handle it. And so her background is social work. He's a pediatric doctor. And she was talking about how sometimes when our emotions aren't felt, when we don't process them, then they just spill over. And that can be good, bad, or otherwise, right? It could be neutral. And he was like, "Oh, we call that chandeliering." He said that's the kind of phenomenon that when you're in pain or that when you're surprised, that you'll kind of jump to the chandelier. You'll kind of have this overreaction. So when I teach this to my students, we all love coffee. That's why I talk about coffee so much. I really do love coffee. I think we make it our whole personality when we're nurses that we love coffee. And so I tell them, it's like what would happen if you went to Starbucks after we got done with clinical. This is what I would tell them in debrief after a clinical day. I'd say, if you go, you leave here, you're tired, you were up early, you've worked really hard today, it's been stressful, and you were to leaving to go to Starbucks. And the Starbucks barista was to get your order wrong and you had an overreaction. You just had a complete meltdown over that. That would be a great example of chandeliering because in the grand scheme of life, your coffee order being wrong is really not a huge deal. But if it wrecks your whole day and it wrecks your whole mood, then you're probably having a chandeliering response to that, an overreaction of your emotions to something pretty minor. And how many of us do that on a daily basis? How many of us see that in other people? And it's because we're not feeling our feelings. We have to feel to heal, is the phrase that's often used in mental health work. And so if we are not feeling that, if we're repressing our feelings, repressing our emotions, and we're not taking good steps to practice gratitude, to express all of the emotions, right? The whole spectrum of emotions, not just the good stuff, then we're really making our bodies have to repress that. And we're making our bodies have to do a lot of work to repress those emotions because we're designed to share. We're designed to storytell. We're designed to let people know how we are. And when we only let them see the positive stuff, the rose colored stuff, the happy stuff, then we're really putting ourselves in a situation where we can't be our best selves. We can't be our authentic selves. And our bodies know that. Our bodies know that we're kind of doing this self betrayal by not sharing who we are as a person, and not letting our whole selves be seen. And so feel grateful for sure. Make gratitude a choice because it is. My mom would always tell me I was pretty grumpy as a kid sometimes. Aren't all kids? And when I would be grumpy, my mom would say, "Abby, happiness is a choice." And I would say, no, it's not. It's not a choice. I don't feel happy. And she'd say, happiness is a choice. And when you get older, you'll realize that. And so, of course, I had to get to my mid-30s before I could call her a few years ago and tell her, okay, you were right. Happiness is a choice. And I think maybe sometimes that's a lesson we have to learn ourselves. We can try to teach it to others, but sometimes we just have to learn it. And so expressing that gratitude looks like thanking others and demonstrating this generosity of spirit. And so I want you to think about how you could demonstrate generosity of spirit today. Some examples are you could say, I'm so thankful for your support. You could text or say that or email that to someone. You could say, I couldn't have done it without you. That's a fun one. I think that's always a good one. I always tell people, you're the best. I couldn't have done that without you. Thank you for your help. I'm very appreciative of your help. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. And then make this specific, obviously. I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude for, right? That feels a little formal, but maybe that's appropriate for something that you're doing today. And then I really appreciate that you were there for me. Sometimes it's just in those quiet moments when we're having a hard time and we don't know what to say. We can just say, thanks for listening to me. Thanks for being there for me. We don't always have to have the right words. And then make gratitude a practice. So 30 days of gratitude, this could be a challenge that you take a screenshot of this or you print it off when we post the slides a little bit later and just check these off. See how many that you can check off the list. My favorite song and why. That would be a fun one to post in the chat. I have a friend at work that does a lot of races and marathons, and she asked us to text her or to write on an index card one of our favorite songs and why it was our favorite song. And she wanted us to pick one that had, good tempo, high energy so that she could add it to her run playlist. I thought that was genius. And we learned a lot about each other. We used it as our icebreaker in a small group meeting. And we each shared a song and we each told why that was our favorite like empowerment song, why we would choose that if we were going on a run. Maybe it's something that you're excited about for the future. Maybe it's something that made you smile today or a memory that made you smile. But this would be a great 30-day gratitude challenge if you're willing to accept it. Are y'all willing to accept the challenge today? And then journal. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. That's usually the thing that you hear the most. I would say write down as many things as you feel grateful for, as often as you can, but definitely in the morning and in the evening just to start the practice. Ideally, you want to get to the point where you're having a hard moment and you just automatically think of something grateful. The more that you practice this, the more automatic that it will become. Thank someone or show appreciation today. I like to give little gifts. So a lot of times I'll bring someone a cookie or a coffee. So I try to find out someone's favorite snack, like someone's favorite treat or someone's favorite coffee order. And I will get that for them, just sporadically throughout the semester. So when someone, prints something or, post something or upload something to Blackboard for me, when one of the assistants does that, a lot of times I will get a coffee or a cookie because I truly do appreciate the work that they do to help support our course, right? It makes our workload more manageable and it makes our day better. And so I worked as an office associate as one of my first jobs at the university. It was my very first job, actually, once I wasn't a student any longer. I did work study as a student, and then I worked as an office associate too in the College of Engineering before I went back to nursing school. And so I know what that means to have an email or a thank you or a coffee brought to me as I'm working. And so I try to remember that. Um, write or mail a thank you note. Look for the good, notice the helpers. It's so important. Mr. Rogers has a quote about notice the helpers when things are going wrong. Mr. Rogers is a good person to think about when you think about gratitude. I think he was the original. He and Bob Ross were the original 2 people that introduced me to these concepts. Repeat gratitude affirmations, do random acts of kindness, maybe create a gratitude jar. So, take a jar and put little slips of paper by it and then write something that you're grateful for. And then you can look back at them at the end of the year. Know your metric of success. So when we lead with gratitude, you need to know what is it that you are going to find to be successful? What's a successful day for you? That really helps you with your gratitude practice. Lead by example and just be really genuine when you're giving gratitude. If it doesn't feel natural, that's okay. It will take some time. But the more you offer these moments of appreciation, the more it will become who you are. Get to know your team, be a servant leader. We're all leaders. If you work at the University of Alabama, you are a leader in some capacity. So offer your help and support, and most importantly, your encouragement. Acknowledge people's individual strengths. I always talk to my nursing students about uniforms. We wear a uniform because the medical model is what drives the nursing model. And the medical model in the US is largely based on the military model. So a lot of the words that we use, a lot of the cultural norms in our profession comes from the military or medical model. And so we literally wear uniforms to work. And uniforms used to be much more strict, right? Like you couldn't pick your own color, you couldn't have extra things, you had to be very much uniform, meaning that everyone looked alike. And so I think it's so important that we don't have this culture of uniformity, that we embrace people's unique strengths and gifts and personalities. We don't want to all be cookie cutter. That's not a very good team. That's not a very good culture. And so celebrating people for the unique person, the authentic person that they are is so, so important. What you feed grows. So what you give your attention to grows. Accept others as they are. Be sincere and authentic and positive. Encourage, encourage, encourage. Engage and reward your team. Provide individualized and frequent constructive feedback. So the sandwich method, something good, something we need to work on, something good, right? So we sandwich the thing we need to work on in the goodness of the rest of it. It's a sandwich. Build a culture of gratitude. So at CCN, we have a gratitude committee and we do lots of fun monthly activities. We have a newsletter, we celebrate, we shout out, we do all of the things to create this culture of gratitude. I always like to tell people to be unoffendable. So, meaning that regardless of what anyone says or does or directs toward me, I'm not going to be offended by that because that is not about me. That is about the other person. And as long as I don't take ownership of what they're saying or doing, then I am just going to be unoffendable. I'm not going to let my feelings get hurt. I'm not going to be offended by someone else's actions. I'm going to note it. I'm going to respond appropriately to it, but I'm not going to internalize it and I'm not going to make it about me. Living life like that is such a huge difference for most people. If you can get there, it's the way to live. From someone who used to be offended by everything, I mean, I just have this strong sense of justice and strong sense of right and wrong. So being unoffendable, really making that a mantra, that really changed my perspective. It also helps conserve your energy, right? Because if you're offended by everything, you just are constantly draining your energy. Unity comes from accountability to one another. Be consistent and transparent. That's key. And then laugh and be silly and serious when it's appropriate, right? I used to be so incredibly painfully serious because everything felt like life or death, right? Nursing school day one, they told us you need to be a catastrophic thinker. It is your responsibility to prevent bad things from happening. As someone who was the captain of safety patrol in the sixth grade and always had that role no matter what I did, right? I was the group project leader, I was the captain of the safety patrol. Um, I did not have to work to be a catastrophic thinker. I just came that way, right? I was not positive Pollyanna. I was, oh my goodness, okay, let me think about all the things that could go wrong so that I can prevent them from happening. That's great in a lot of ways. It's great when your nurse is like that. You're going to be safe. But it's hard to clock out from that. And I think a lot of us share that. There probably half of us on this call are like that. The other half, y'all are probably pretty positive and happy to be around. The other half is probably like me and they're like, okay, I've got to be serious. I've got to be focused. It all depends on me. And but silly and serious can coexist and find ways to laugh. If you're not belly laughing every day, make that your happy homework this week. Find a show, find a meme, find something, that you're going to be able to share with someone else or share with yourself and just belly laugh. That is so incredibly healthy. And when we don't do that, we're not really discharging all of that stress in our lives. Don't make gratitude a chore. So when I first started a gratitude practice, I made myself miserable with it, and probably other people too. I was like, we must do this correctly. We have to follow the protocol. If you just make it something on your growing to-do list, if you just make it something that's fancy, that's expensive, that's hard to do, elaborate, that it has to be perfect, it's not going to give you the benefits of doing it. Okay. So let gratitude be simple, let it be mostly spontaneous, but make sure you're doing it. And then fun and free, right? You can literally take a thing of sticky notes and write your gratitude list. It can be on a scrap sheet of paper, it can be in your notes app on your phone. It does not have to be this big, huge chore. And it doesn't need to be, or else you're probably going to negate the benefits of actually doing the gratitude. And then things to generate a gratitude list. When it's Thanksgiving, I say host a Friendsgiving, but I included a host a dinner party or a potluck or a luncheon, celebrate, give shout outs, write a sticky note and go put it on someone's desk or door and just say, you're awesome. The way that you handled XYZ last week really amazed me. Or thanks for just being a happy coworker. Text someone, give a hug, but I'll always ask first. I'm not a huge hugger. I think people think I am, but I'm not a huge hugger. So always ask people before you hug them. But give them a high five, probably ask about that too. But smile, speak in the hallways, speak first. I'm an introvert, and people don't know that because I like to talk. And so just because you're talkative doesn't mean that you're an extrovert. I'm a very talkative introvert. And so I challenged myself a few years ago. I was like, people don't speak to me in the hallways. And it's because I have like a frowny thinking face on. I have to remember to smile. Being on Zoom a lot since COVID has taught me when I'm making a face that I need to correct when I'm thinking too hard and I'm frowning. And so I have to really think about smiling, one, and two, speaking, because I'm always living in my head thinking about something. And so I challenged myself a few years ago to smile and to speak to other people first. And you know what? People then start doing the same thing back to you, and it's kind of a competition to see who speaks and smiles first. Send a card, show kindness, show compassion. Decorate your office space. We live a lot of hours at work. Make it a happy place to be. A lot of people compliment my office, and they're like, "Wow, you really decorated." And I was like, "Well, I spend so much time here. I want it to be a happy place to be." So do that. And I've done that ever since I worked at the hospital and I had no office. When I had a cubicle and no walls, I did that as an office associate. I was in an open space that I shared with three other people. I still made it a happy place to be. I did it when I had a shared office and a closed door and no window. I did it when I had a window office by myself. Literally decorate your space and make it a happy place to be, no matter what your circumstances are. Maybe start a gratitude group in your department or in your college. Find ways to make your work and your life fun. Engage in a gratitude challenge like the one I suggested earlier, and then just make it a part of who you are. Make it a part of your routine. Really, the thing about habit change is we start to see our habits change when we make it a part of our identity. So, gratitude myths, gratitude is not just a naive form of positive thinking, and it's not something that is impossible or inappropriate just because there's a lot of suffering or adversity going on in the world. Actually, that is when we need gratitude the most. I was going through a really challenging time with my husband having a cancer diagnosis. He's had cancer 9 to 10 times over the last 20 years, and he was going through a really difficult treatment. And I posted something on Facebook, obviously it was a very happy thing. I don't recall all the details, but I had someone message me and say, "How can you be so happy when your husband has cancer, is going through cancer treatments?" And at the time, our kids were really little. They were elementary school aged. I have 5 kids, 2 sets of twins, and I was in graduate school working full time. I mean, life was not exceptionally happy, and it was definitely very stressful. And I couldn't understand why that person reached out to me. We weren't very close, but I mean, it was someone I saw on a regular basis and knew outside of work. And so I messaged back and I said, "Well, I'm not sure how you're asking this question." I said, "But But my husband and my kids and the other people who are around me deserve to have a happy, healthy version of me, even though things are hard. And I'm choosing to be grateful. I'd already gone through a lot of my healing process to work on this. And I said, they really deserve that for me. Having a bad attitude and being ungrateful is not going to make my husband's cancer treatment any better for him. I promise you. He wants me to be happy and he wants me to be joyful and grateful. And I didn't stay that way. I was not like that 24/7. There were really hard moments, lots of tears. But, I think it's so important to remember that it's okay to have both hard things and be grateful. It can both exist, right? It's not an or situation, it's and. This is really hard, and I'm going to still choose to be grateful. Roadblocks, there are a million roadblocks. For everybody on the call, there will be tons of unique roadblocks. But stress and overwhelm and just honestly getting so hyper focused on the things that are going wrong usually block our ability to be grateful. So, life circumstances, internal, external factors, mindset challenges, we all come with our own mindset challenges. Just our baseline personality, research shows that some people are just kind of wired to be happier than other people. And then, of course, our experiences, especially our childhood experiences, our early childhood experiences really do set the foundation, but we can overcome a lot of that. We just have to have the awareness to start to change, right? And sometimes we need more help with that. Sometimes it's counseling or it's coaching or it's signing up for a class like this today. I mean, there are lots of ways that you can overcome some of our roadblocks. But the first thing starts with awareness. Eckhart Tolle says acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. And I truly believe that. And I didn't believe it at first because I didn't want to believe it. But when I was going through this really hard season of life, someone rewrote that for me and said, Abby, if someone gave you a gift and you were never grateful for it, and they kept giving you gifts and you never said thank you, you never showed appreciation, you never acted grateful for it, do you think that person would keep giving you gifts? And I said, well, no. They're like, would you keep giving gifts? And I said, well, no, probably not. And they're like, that's how, and you can insert God, universe, whatever your faith belief system is. The same thing is happening in your life. If you're not showing gratitude and thankfulness and gratefulness and appreciation and being happy for what you're given in life, regardless of what source you put there, right? God, universe, something else, if not for that, then you're not really showing appreciation. It's not going to keep happening, right? You're not going to keep getting good things. And that changed my whole perspective, that one comment. So control what you can control. Don't give away your power or your agency or your autonomy. Dr. Daniel Amen is a world-renowned, I believe, psychologist. Or he may be a psychiatrist, though, and he is married to a ICU nurse, and she was doing a call with him on the importance of responsibility. And she broke it down as responsibility is response and ability combined. And so it's our ability to respond. So when we don't take responsibility for ourselves and our actions and our attitude, then we give away our power, our agency, and our autonomy. So we have to take responsibility for our lives and show up in a really grateful way. So, garden as a metaphor for life. I'll let y'all read through these steps, but we all know probably how to garden. What I would say though is that when you reap your harvest of all the good seeds that you've planted, and those are seeds of gratitude for this example, if you're not invited to the table, build your own table or bring your own chair, right? So if you're not getting invited to lunch, invite someone to lunch. If you're not getting included in the book club, start a book club. If you're not getting included in the golf outing on the weekend, invite someone to go play golf with you. So give what you get and give what you want to get in return. So there's an article here, The Garden as Life Metaphor. And I think it really applies here to gratitude. So that's a great resource if you want to explore more. Grow your gratitude. So prepare your heart and mind. Plant seeds of gratitude. Prune. So we all know gardens aren't going to grow unless we de-weed it, right? We've got to get out all of the weeds that are trying to take over the good stuff. So we've got to tend it and nurture it, and we've got to practice taking care of our garden. So patience and perseverance, and then pay it forward, right? So we're all just watering seeds, but what seeds have we planted? Are they seeds of gratitude? And then you can also include gratitude as a game. So naming things that you're thankful for. This is a really fun one. And then, of course, gratitude isn't just for Thanksgiving. So gratitude changes everything. And I like to say gratitude changes everything if we let it. So these are going to be our resources. So just some things here to remind you, some recommended reading, some TED Talks, an affirmation. And I really do believe this one. Gratitude is a prerequisite to happiness. It's really the foundation of everything. Some gratitude prompts if you need help with getting started in journaling your gratitude. And then some habits that you can create, some benefits, and then another passage I always like to read. So practice gratitude, enhance your happiness, and feel that ripple effect in your life. And can you imagine if we started that kind of practice here on campus and in the community? We really could see a huge ripple effect from just the people on this call deciding that they're going to show up happy and grateful, still being, aware of the challenges, but choosing to be grateful anyway. So it's okay to grow slow and just take one baby step at a time. Peonies, which are my favorite, or peonies, whichever way you want to pronounce it, grow through the dirt. They're my favorite flower. And I think it's so important to remember that most good things grow in the dirt, and they grow because they've had to be watered. So they had a lot of rain. And that's how we grow too. So it's not just joy that makes us grateful, it is gratitude that makes us joyful. So we would love for you to follow us on all of our channels, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you guys might have. We'll be at time in a few minutes, and so if you need to go, that's completely fine, but I want to make sure we have time for question and answer. All right. I may need some help, Carolyn.
I didn't see any questions yet.
No questions?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just lots of good comments. Good. Yes. So glad. Any
Presentations
questions?
in the chat for anybody who needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's 113 of us on this call. So can you imagine? It would be like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. If you imagine 113 people, someone can do the math for us. 113 people, if we were all to go contact one or two or three people and express our gratitude, how much that would change Tuscaloosa today. So that's my challenge to you guys. And then just pick one thing to start to incorporate in your life until it becomes something that you just automatically do, and it's just who you are. I'll make sure there's no other comments or questions. Well, I'm really grateful to get to do this. It's always the highlight of my week to be able to spend time with y'all, teaching you something that I've probably learned usually the hard way. I don't ever learn it from a textbook. I always learn it from having lived it. And so it really is a special thing to get to be able to spend this time with you guys and to share some little nuggets that I found along the way. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you've had a little nugget that you take away. My teacher, Dr. Atkinson's over in the College of Education, said you should always walk away with a golden nugget. And if one person walked away with a golden nugget, then your job as a teacher was a success. And so I live by that mantra as a teacher. And I think that's so important. Oh, Marcia, did you have a question, or did you want to say something? Thanks, Rachel. I think you're still muted, Marcia. Oh no. If you're not unable to mute, then unmute yourself. Then you can put it in the chat, or you can reach out. We can't unmute ourselves. Okay, let's see if we can.
Try it now.
Carolyn, are you able to unmute Marcia Jones Rush?
Let me see.
That may be Sierra.
Marcia, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, are you able to hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to know, I love the slides, a lot of the slides that you were posting. Are we able to get that? Will you post those to where we can go back and look at that?
Yes, Carolyn has them, and Carolyn will post them for us in just a minute. Thank you for that.
So the presentation is in there's a link, and then also the PowerPoint is in the chat. You can grab it off there. And then the recording will be archived on our YouTube channel.
And
Thank you, Marcia.
I did pin one of the times that Carolyn had sent it in the chat to the top of the chat so that it's not lost. You should be able to follow that link.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Rachel, thanks for pointing out that we had a hand raised. And I hope y'all have the best week practicing gratitude. Thanks, guys.